Ideal mesmo para o mundo atual seria fazer o ensino médio junto com o curso técnico, certo? É no Senac que o aluno tem autonomia de verdade, formação cidadã, foco na diversidade, preparação para o Enem, material didático sem taxas e muito mais. Na real, tem tudo que você precisa para se sentir preparado para a vida. Seja para entrar no mundo do trabalho ou te ajudar a decidir o que fazer na faculdade. Quer saber? Senac. Vem comigo! Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino-médio-técnico. Sair da escola já com uma formação profissional no currículo? Parece bom demais pra ser verdade, né? Pois é. No ensino técnico do Senac, isso é possível. É ensino médio junto com formação técnica, que acontece durante os 3 anos. Lá, eles usam metodologia para projetos, desenvolvendo competências como resolução de problemas, pensamento crítico e colaboração, além de valores éticos e sustentáveis. Quer saber? Senac. Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino médio e saiba mais.
Hello, fellow gamers, and welcome to the Video Gamers Podcast. On this episode of This Week in Gaming, we're taking a look at recent Avowed gameplay and in-depth previews. I may be trying to convince Ryan that Path of Exile 2 is better than Diablo, and we'll be talking about a rumor that has me at max hype level. But first, some introductions are in order. I am your host, Josh, and joining me, he's been dating the old, tired, and worn-out Diablo for a while, but there's a cute new girl in town called Path of Exile 2, and maybe, just maybe, there's magic in the air. It's Ryan.
I am a loyal man.
No, Ryan.
Nope. I am committed. I am a lifetimer. You can't sway me, bro.
Oh, we'll see about that. We'll see. I'm reminded of the meme with the guy with the girlfriend.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of. Yeah,
dude, that is 1,000% like Diablo, and then it's like there goes Path of Exile too.
Looking back, what? Oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we're gonna get into it, and I'm gonna explain why I think it might be time. Might be time, Ryan.
Yeah.
So welcome in, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We've got some awesome news to talk about. I am very hyped for these 2 games that we're going to be covering here. And then we don't normally cover rumors because it's like we'd rather just wait until something's confirmed to cover it on the show. But some rumors kind of have a little bit more behind them, especially when they come from, I don't know, the voice actor of the person that is the character in a game.
Just a little bit.
So we'll get to that here in a little bit as well. But Ryan, let's get into it because we've got some stuff to talk about, man. Let's start off with Avowed. Now, we have been talking about Avowed from the very first minute we got the reveal trailer for this game. Our hype level for Avowed has been through the roof. We have said many, many a times that when it was announced for release in late 2024, that it was one of our most anticipated games of the year. Who picked that? Was it Paul that picked up Avowed for our Game of the Year draft?
I think it might have been me. It
was
either
it you?
I think it was me or Paul.
It wasn't me. I know that. So
I can't remember.
All that to say that this game has been at the top of our hype meter. Then they delayed it to 2025 because they said, listen, there's too many good games coming out in 2024. We don't want to crowd the market, so we'll just move it to February of 2025. And then, of course, there's like 4 other massive games coming out within like a week of Avowed, right? Yep. So it's like, what the heck, man? But we just this week got a lot of information about Avowed. We got hands-on previews. We got, in-depth gameplay breakdowns, story information, dev interviews. It was just a flood. Like, obviously they let people play the game a lot more. And then those people, all created content for that. Hey, by the way, Obsidian, we'd like to play Avowed.
Yeah, let us know
if you want to reach out to us.
We're here.
Yeah. Just because we don't do video.
Yeah.
But so, man, I'm going to just start off, dude. This game, the more I see of this game, the better this game looks, in my opinion. What is your quick takeaway from some of the stuff that you saw?
I think I'm right there with you, man. I have obviously been itching for a replacement for that hole in my heart that is Skyrim, because I can only buy it.
I'm so glad you mentioned Skyrim,
and
dude.
replay it so many times. I'm like, how many times can I play this game? How many times can I buy it? Although I did watch a couple people in our Discord. They were streaming on our channel, and they were playing it, and it instantly got me rehyped. And I'm like, oh, I need to play some more Skyrim. But this is like kind of that revamped, beautiful graphics, updated type of fantasy open world game like that. So what I've seen is awesome. I am beyond stoked. I hope the delay is worth it. That's what I want to say.
But see, the crazy thing is the delay. They have said that the delay was not for gameplay.
Yeah.
It was not for polishing. It was simply to not have the game be up against these other juggernauts. And then they wound up right back in that situation anyway. So it's like, am I the only one that goes, dude, if you delayed this game and it wasn't because of gameplay, can't you just reverse the delay?
Yeah.
Like, we're playing Stalker 2 right now. There's nothing else coming out.
Yep.
I mean, Path of Exile 2, which we are going to talk about here in just a little bit, is releasing in early December, but it's releasing in its beta. It's basically early access. Now, it looks to be a fully fledged early access. We'll get into that. But Avowed, come on, man.
Give it to
Undo
we want
the delay.
it. We want
it. I know. Like, this is the perfect time to do something awesome the gamers would absolutely lose their minds over. Just be like, you know what? There's nothing good in December. Avowed's releasing.
Yeah. We changed our minds. We're bringing it early, you know.
You can do that. We'll forgive you.
Yeah.
Like, I promise gamers will not be upset.
I wonder if it's one of those things where it's just the wheels are in motion. Like, they already moved it. They pivoted. Everything's locked in. Marketing.
Unpivot.
Campaigns. Yeah, I know. Unpivot. 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 Yeah, I mean, gosh, man, that would be so cool if you're listening now. Do what we say. Bring it early. Come on.
Yes.
Give us a Christmas present. Santa's early.
You have a chance to do something that I don't know that I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately to say, hey, you know what? Forget February, dude. We're releasing it in December.
Yeah.
It's ready to go. We claimed it was ready to go. So why not? You know, it's funny that you mentioned Skyrim because we got a lot of video footage from this latest round of previews.
Yes.
IGN did their kind of final preview, they call it. There's a lot of YouTube content creators that have really broken down gameplay footage and stuff like that. And it's new footage. It's not just them voicing over like, stock footage that they were given before.
Yeah.
One dude had like a 48-minute video where he was breaking down combat, story, character. And I was just kind of like, dude, I don't really need a 48-minute video on this, but fine. But it's really interesting to me that you mentioned Skyrim because as I'm watching this video, I can't help but go, is this next gen Skyrim? Like the way the combat works, the way that the skills work, kind of like in Skyrim where, you know what, you want to get better at swimming? Guess what you got to do? You just swim.
Go swimming.
Yeah. Want to get better at your two-hand sword? Guess what? Use a two-hand sword.
Yeah.
And I actually really like that kind of progression system because it gives you different things that you can kind of focus on and you can kind of feel your character getting better just through practice. But my brain just could not lose this is Skyrim in 2025, dude.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. That's what it went to me. It did give me a little bit too of having recently played Hogwarts with my son. Using the wand in the video we watched,
yes.
He's like flicking the wand and doing that. I'm like, okay, they didn't really do that in Skyrim. It was all like hand-based magic when you're doing your flames or your other attacks and even your shouts. You don't have anything exterior that you're using really, unless you have like a staff. But to my knowledge, at least that I remember, they got so many copies. Who knows? But yeah, it definitely does give you that feel. But it looks refined, it looks crisp, it looks updated, it looks like what the next kind of Elder Scrolls would be. So not to take away from Avowed, kind of piggybacking off of Skyrim, but I just think it looks like that type of good quality fantasy open world that we would just enjoy exploring, developing your character, just going all night long, playing and grinding and doing things to where you say you're grinding, but it's not actually a grind. It's just, you're like, you want to do these things.
You're playing.
Yeah, you're just
exactly.
playing.
Yeah, and I love that stuff, man. I like I said, I love the skills where it's just like, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't really want to play a melee character, but let me pick up this sword and see how it goes. And then you kill like 3 guys, and it's like sword has increased to level 2, and I'm like, ooh, that kind of keeps me, drawn in, right? Like, let's see how good this thing can get. So another thing that we saw from this, and I want to touch on this just based off of our recent playthrough of Dragon Age Veilguard and kind of our disappointment with that game, was right away, everybody said, dude, your choices matter in this game. Like from almost like the first few minutes of the game, because you do have a companion apparently that kind of, I don't know if he follows you the whole game, but you do have a companion, and they were saying that they had a lot of fun just instantly being like a jerk to their companion, and like there was an NPC on a quest where it's just like instantaneously the guy was like, dude, I could be evil. I could lie to this dude. I could rob this guy if I wanted to. I could go do the quest that he sent me to do and then just keep the reward for myself, and then tell the guy like I'm keeping it. And then the guy would get super ticked off and just like run off or whatever. And then maybe later on you come across him and he wants to fight you now because of the choices you made. Dude, that is what, in my opinion, if you're going to have an open world RPG, you have to have those choices. And some of the best games out there, some of the most legendary games like Mass Effect, like Cyberpunk, like The Witcher, like, I'm going to say Dragon Age, but I don't mean Veilguard in this case, unfortunately. But like Dragon Age, where your choices mattered, and that adds so much to a game because it's not always the major choice, because I know there's going to be people that love Veilguard and they're going to be like, well, you could make choices in Veilguard. And it's like, yeah, you could, but they were few and far between. And more often than not, they didn't actually matter. It's not like in The Witcher where you are faced with some gray area and you really don't know what to pick, but then you find out the ramifications like an hour or 2 later. Like that's the stuff that really makes a game memorable, in my opinion. And I was very worried when we first heard about Avowed that it seems like games have kind of played it safe. Yeah. Almost. And Avowed is going, we ain't playing it safe, man. Like it's Obsidian Entertainment, dude. They know how to make this kind of game. And so to just get the confirmation from people that have hands-on with this and say, dude, if you want to be evil in this game, you can be evil. And if you want to rob people and lie and cheat and stuff like that, you can do that if you want. I have a hard time with that from like a moral standpoint in a video game. I don't know why, but I like that that's built into the game itself because it tells me that this game is actually going to be fully fledged. It's going to feel like you are living in this world and you can interact with this world in the way that you want to.
No, I totally agree. I'm not as high on those kind of impactful decision-making game types as you guys are. I know I just get paralysis by analysis. I don't like huge skill trees. I don't like it because I'm like, what if I pick wrong? Same with the choices. I'm like, what if I choose the wrong selection? I like I always say I love Red Dead. I can go be just a horrible bandit my whole career in that game and still get whatever outcome I want until the very end when I go and make my moral level good. But
The other thing too is like, I mean, I'm not necessarily the kind of person that plays through a game more than once. I mean, let's be honest, I'll be lucky to even finish Avowed just because my gamer ADD will kick in after 28 hours and then I'm just going to be like, ooh, what's that over there? Right.
Shiny.
But the nice thing is when you have these morality systems in these games and your choices matter, it really opens up the replayability of a game.
It does.
Like, hey, I lied to that guy and I took his family heirloom and I went and I sold it to a vendor. I wonder what happens if I give it back to him. Like, what's going to happen then? So it really does add to the replayability of a game and kind of that rediscovery of like a second playthrough as well. So dude, the more I see about this, the combat. Okay, so one other thing that I want to touch on real quick is in the early previews for Avowed that we saw, the combat looked kind of janky. Yeah. Like, I remember us even saying, like, what's with the combat? It looks almost like, not stop motion, but it really looked like it wasn't fluid and looked kind of weird.
It was almost choppy. It was a little choppy.
Right. And one of the things that kind of got confirmed from this latest preview, in this hands-on demo and stuff like that, was everybody basically said the combat in this game is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You can approach it how you want to approach it. You can use whatever weapons you want to use. You can dual wield. So we saw a video of like a guy with a pistol in one hand and a wand in the other.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is an odd combination to me.
And I love it. I love it.
Yeah. But it's like, I like that, man. The fact that the combat seems legit in this game, because you're going to be doing a lot of combat, man.
Oh, for sure. Hopefully.
I mean, that honestly, hopefully is a great thing to say, because it's like, if you're going to have a game with combat in it and it's 30% of the game, you better make it enjoyable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You don't want a mob to come out and you're like, all right, here we go. You want to be excited to use your abilities to progress to the next stage of whatever you're looking forward to. So yeah, I think it looked awesome. I loved, there was fluidity to it. It did look crisp. And just to dual wield these it just gives you so many different options, to where you're not stuck in one kind of pattern where you just always do the same thing. When you can have that ability to flip things around and change and attack it whatever way feels good to you, that gives you a chance to enjoy the game no matter how you want to play it. Yeah.
Everything that I saw from this preview really got me excited. I mean, from the characters to the story to the world. This takes place in see, now I got Path of Exile on my brain, but it's the Path of oh my goodness, the Aora. It's the come on, Ryan, help me out here. Pathfinder.
I watched it too, but I have the same thing in my head.
Wrath
that you're
of the
doing.
Righteous, Path of I hate my brain sometimes. I don't. Well, anyway, it's from that universe. Right? So it's whatever that universe is, you guys know what I'm talking about. But so that's really neat too, because you have this fully fleshed out world that this game is taking place in. You have all of the lore, the races, all of that stuff to kind of support this game as well. So I could sit here and gush about Avowed and how excited we are about this, Ryan, but we should probably move on to another game that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're going to do that right after this short break. It's freaking Pillars of Eternity, Ryan.
That's what it is.
PoE, Path of Exile, Pillars of Eternity, whatever, man.
Tripped us up just a little bit.
Remember,
There's a lot of stuff we cover. There's a lot of games in our brains right now.
Yeah, so Pillars of Eternity, which we did a deep dive on as well. It was actually chosen as a legendary pick. Anyway, it was really bugging me. Had to correct that there, because I have Path of Exile on the brain, which is exactly what we're about to talk about.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Diablo Stan.
Yeah,
Mr.
buddy.
Diablo.
Yeah, buddy.
You love Diablo.
Stay a
You
while
love the
and
gameplay
listen.
loop.
Yep.
You love the loot drops. You love the skills and the builds and the overcoming the dungeons and the boss fights and the world bosses and the trying to grind that piece of gear or that gem upgrade or any of that stuff. Ryan, what if I told you there's a game that does all of that way better? Like way better.
I would say, what you smoking, brother?
Okay. What if how cool would it be, Ryan, if you played Sorcerer in Diablo, right?
I do. I'm usually Sorc.
Okay. So how cool would it be if you were like, dude, I'm playing Sorcerer, but if I could just get that one rogue skill, dude, oh my goodness, the things I could do with this build would be insane.
That'd be too scary. I'd have to get close to the enemies.
Right? Okay. So what if I said, hey man, there's a game that graphically is probably on par with Diablo 4 at this point.
That'd be good. That's a good thing.
Okay. What if Diablo 4 had like boss fights? I mean, I know it does kind of have boss fights, but what if it had like boss fights that were like twice as epic and had really cool mechanics that you wouldn't even find in a Diablo game?
So we don't just go in and just spam attacks and everything. You got to do
you actually have to like dodge abilities and like have like actual boss fight mechanics that you have to be aware of.
Okay.
And what if there were like 100+ different bosses that were all super unique and had their own mechanics and stuff like that.
Okay. Now you're speaking my language. I like this.
Okay. Well, let me tell you about a game called Path of Exile 2.
Oh, all right.
Okay. Now, Path of Exile, famously, I will say this. I've never played Path of Exile. I was going to get into it at one point. I don't know what happened. I have always loved, famously, I love giant skill trees, the ability to kind of theory craft and build out a character the way you want. It's one of my main complaints that I have made very public about Diablo 4 is I felt like Diablo 4 was kind of dumbed down in that regard. Path of Exile is kind of the antithesis to Diablo in that regard, where they say, listen, we let you play this game the way that you can imagine playing it. You want a skill tree that is beyond 100 different nodes and things like that. And I know that worries you a little bit because you get the paralysis. I do too. But you can respec, from my understanding, gear, multi-classing, really neat, diverse classes, that kind of stuff. Path of Exile 2 has been in development for years and years and years, and they are building off of everything that they learned in Path of Exile.
Yeah.
And we finally got another video where they were talking about the mercenary class and another preview, because Path of Exile 2 is actually going to release into early access. I think they're calling it just their beta period.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're really using the term early access or not, but it is releasing in a kind of half-finished state because this game's massive, dude. Massive. So they talked about, hey, when we release, and I'm pretty sure it's December 6th is the release date on this, which is really not far away at all.
Yeah.
But they're saying there's going to be 20 plus hours of content in the actual campaign. And the end game for Path of Exile 2 is going to be unlike anything we have seen in this genre, quite possibly ever, to be honest, because there are tons of endgame content. Now, you watched this video for this kind of final preview, we're going to call it.
Yeah, I did.
Did you get to the part where they talked about some of the endgame content and some of the variables that they have and stuff like that?
I did, and it seems very neat to me. It's hard because the way to describe it is I just Diablo is just so near and dear to my heart, and so there's really any other game type is just a kind of cheesy ripoff to me.
It's going to get compared to Diablo in your mind
1,000%. And that's my issue, and I'm well aware of that. But also, having said that, I love RTS games, and I am a huge StarCraft guy, but Age of Empires is also one of my favorite RTSs ever, and it's the same game. Right. Even the Lord of the Rings one, there was an awesome Lord of the Rings one where you get the elves with the silver arrows and all that stuff. They're all pretty much the same, and they're all absolutely amazing and fun, but they're all their own game. And so it's more, I think, than anything, me getting past that, okay, this isn't Diablo, but maybe this is still going to be a really, really good game. So I think I won't have trouble getting past that, especially once I dive into it and play it. It's just getting past that first hump. But what we've seen and what it looks like they're bringing to the table with this type of game, they're kind of taking it to the next level. They're stepping it up for sure.
Dude, I will say this. I absolutely want, I might even try to really bully you into this, and I know it won't be hard because I know you, but I really, really want us to play Path of Exile 2 together.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, number one, it is multiplayer. You can absolutely play this game just like you could, play Diablo and stuff too. But some of the stuff that they talked about with the end game content, because this was a big disappointment for me with Diablo 4 when Diablo 4 released. Now, I understand that Diablo 4 has had a lot of improvements over the last year and a half or 2 years or whatever it's been since it released.
Well, they're in a weird place right now.
Are they? Yeah. I mean, I haven't played it, so it's I've heard really good things about, hey, they fixed the gear system and some of that, but then at the same time, I've heard that it's the end game content's just not there, and it's super repetitive to people and things like that too.
And not to cut you off totally, but the new class for the new Vessel of Hatred.
Oh, I hear it's just broken.
So Spiritborn is totally, completely broken. With the right specs, you can basically one-shot everything.
Yeah, well, you got to sell that DLC, homie.
Yeah, I know, right? Hey, come and get this new guy. You just take over the game. Good for you.
yeah. And it's I want that guy. Oh, well, you got to pay that $40 price tag for
right.
that guy. So, it's one of those things where really good, engaging end game content. Let's just call it raid content, right? To kind of use that term for, an RPG-ish type game. I found to be very lackluster in Diablo 4, which is why I quit almost right away. I mean, I put maybe 5 hours into the endgame content and then went, cool, I've played Diablo 4 at this point. What Path of Exile 2 is doing is they are absolutely focusing on the long-term health of this game. And they showed off some of that stuff in this preview. And it looks phenomenal to me. I love a challenge. You know that I will bang my head against a wall on a boss 30 times to beat that boss. And what they were showing with the multitude of, and there's a lot of different types of content, it's not just dungeons and stuff either, is some of these like modifiers with these dungeons that you can add, where they were like, in one modifier, there are these blood spheres that will follow you through the whole dungeon. And if you stand in one spot for too long, they'll try to crush you. And so you have to constantly be moving. And then they showed another modifier where there's these like little lightning storms that will form on the map as you're trying to clear the dungeon. So it's like you're trying to make it from point A to point B to get through this dungeon. You have these blood balls that are following you around trying to crush you. And at the same time, you have these lightning storms that are popping up in a grid pattern. So you have to actually stand in the safe place from these lightning storms. All this stuff is just getting my hardcore gamer brain just, super amped up, because the only thing I can picture is like me and you and some other friends trying to make our way through this dungeon, getting wrecked, but like slowly figuring it out. You know what I mean? And actually overcoming those challenges. And then you get sweet, sweet gear out of it at the end. I don't know, man. I'm amped. Dude.
No, that's for sure. When you have good raid mechanics or boss mechanics in different, dungeons or whatever it may be, there's something to that, especially if it's multiplayer where you have to coordinate with your teammates and, hey, this, I'm on this, the blood balls are coming my way, we got to move, and you're doing all the things you have to do. And so everybody has a mission or a job or an objective, and they have to be on top of it. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed in what you have to do. So there is something to be said about that. And it is cool that they're putting that much work into it. And then that's one of, 100 bosses that you're going to fight. So it's cool when there's going to be that flair and that flavor and a change to each one. So it's not always going to be dull and the same, which sometimes can happen with Diablo. You just got to run the same stuff over and over and over. I'm still obviously famously playing Diablo 2. It's just, to me, it's the perfect game for that type, but it does get old. So to have the change with this and have those little tweaks within kind of the realm of that dungeon or boss fight is something that's pretty neat. So I'm, you know me, dude. All you gotta do is hype it up a little bit. Say me and two other guys are playing it, and I'm like, all right, I'm in, brother. I am the biggest FOMO guy you will ever meet in your life. So you hype it up just
We're
even a
gonna play
little
this
bit.
game, Ryan. I'm just giving you warning right now.
I'll concede
my
now.
hype
I'll
level for
concede
this
right
is,
now, dude.
Yes. Ryan, 12 different classes at release with, I think they said their plan is to have like 20 when the game is fully complete.
How am I going to pick?
20 classes.
How am I going to pick?
Exactly. Oh, it's going to be so fun to try the different ones, man.
Oh, I'm going to pick wrong.
Hundreds of boss fights.
Yeah.
And the bosses have their own kind of unique layers and worlds and stuff like that, or dungeons or something like that as well. Dozens of build combinations for each class. So It's like, dude, you can play this class the way you want. You want to be a up close monk that's like a super tanky dude. You can probably do that. You want to be a monk that is like, hit and run tactics and builds up this huge AoE charge and then just wrecks everything, but then has to kind of play a little bit more passive. You can do that. They're talking about the mercenary class, which we got a preview of this. They said actually plays like a third person shooter. At that point, a top-down shooter, because they want to resonate with kind of younger gamers that are used to this type of gameplay. Yep. So they're actually making that class so that people that are used to that can play it that way. Everything I see just screams incredible game to me. I can't imagine this game failing. I'm really, really excited about it. So yeah, just save the date, Ryan. December 6th.
It's on the board, baby.
Yeah, buddy. All right, listen, we're almost out of time because we have gushed over Avowed and Path of Exile 2, but we did promise a rumor. Man, this whole episode is just my hype meter, just on full display. Sorry,
Josh is
everybody.
like, we're covering all these things that I love, and that's the bottom line.
Hey, we're gamers, man. These are the things that get us excited, right?
Luckily, I'm excited too. So,
that's why we're covering it. I know, because I know you're excited too. God of War, maybe my all-time favorite series. I've been in the middle of playing Ragnarok in between games for the podcast. God of War 2018, I think, is just one of the most perfect video games.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody kind of knew when Ragnarok released that there is very likely going to be a third God of War in the series. There's been speculation that it is going to be in like the Egyptian kind of lore and mythology and stuff like that, which sounds super cool to me, dude.
You know me, dude.
I mean, Kratos taking on Amun-Ra or something like that would be insane. I like the visuals with Egyptian mythology and stuff as well. We don't have any confirmation about any of that stuff, but I just wanted to kind of build up the hype a little bit. But what we did get was Christopher Judge, the voice of Kratos, saying on his show, because he does a show, that there are going to be some major God of War announcements coming in likely the first, maybe the second week of December, but all signs are pointing towards like the first week in December. Dude, if they announce the third God of War in this series, even though it'll probably be 4 years away, I'm going to lose my mind, dude.
I'm with you. And you know him, this is his life. God of War, Kratos, like that is what he is all about now. Famously, he was big on Stargate, awesome as Teal'c, and then he just came in and just gave the best performance ever on God of War, and he's just taken on that role and become Kratos, and it is all he cares about now. And so, if they, especially if it's Egypt or anything like that, I don't even have words right now. I'm just so excited. I will lose my mind with whatever they announce. And he loves to hype everyone up. Like this is what he is. So,
I'm hyped.
Yeah.
It worked. It was one sentence.
Yeah.
It was literally, he kind of mumbled it during his show and he just said, hey, there's probably some major announcements coming up. The other thing that lends credence to this rumor is I don't know if he's the lead animator, but he is the animator. He's the senior staff animator, a guy by the name of Roberto Clemente. Is the senior staff animator for Santa Monica Studios, and he retweeted a tweet that basically said there are some huge God of War announcements coming up very soon in December. And so the fact that he would retweet that, and we have Christopher Judge saying, hey, there's some huge announcements coming. I don't even know what to do, man.
What a weird time where like this guy said this and this guy retweeted it, but he works for this, so then that, and we're like, oh my god.
I normally I try to not fall for like the rumor mill and the hype, that kind of stuff. But dude, when you're talking about God of War and what it could be, I'm gonna pay attention, and then we're obviously gonna talk about it on the show too. So get ready, everybody, because hopefully it's coming in early December. I will say the only thing that would disappoint me is if it's, hey, we're remaking God of War 1, 2, and 3. You can play those now and they hold up. Like maybe the graphics aren't so good, but the gameplay holds up. Yeah. And so it's like, please don't just be a remake, man. Like,
that's what everyone does.
Unless you're giving it like the Final Fantasy remake treatment or the Dead Space remake treatment, if you're giving it that kind of treatment, okay, fine. But if it's just hey, we're remaking these and re-releasing them on PC or something, I'm not gonna be happy about that. So fingers crossed that this winds up being some news on God of War 3. I don't even know what you call that, because it's not God of War 3, God of War 2018 3, the sequel to Ragnarok. How about that?
There you go.
All right. Okay, well, thank you for listening to Josh's hype meter with Ryan as my hype man.
Yeah,
getting all these games out there. I know you're just as hyped as me for Avowed, Ryan. I'm gonna get you hyped for Path of Exile 2, dude. You're gonna see, man. Not that I have any experience with this game at all, but you're gonna be with me.
Always.
So that is it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. Hey, if you enjoyed the podcast and you want to help the show, take a second in your podcast app. Make sure you click that follow button, click that plus button so you get all of our episodes the day that they release so you don't miss anything. You can follow us on socials at Video Gamers Pod. And if you really want to go that extra mile and say, you know what, you guys have provided me with, I think we're nearing 500 episodes, Ryan, of this podcast. But if you have been following the show and, you know, we have enriched your life or your commutes or your chores or something like that, take a second to just consider supporting this podcast and keeping it going. You can do that over at multiplayersquad.com. It's very easy to sign up. You can cancel at any time, but it really does help us keep the content flowing to the world as well. We also give you cool perks like early access, ad-free episodes, a shout out on the show and things like that as well. So take a look at that stuff over at multiplayersquad.com. That's it for this one, Ryan. Until next time, happy gaming.
See ya.